My dad's in town to visit, so I am bringing one of his all-time favorite foods to the table, his coconut cream pie. I finally asked him for the recipe so I could learn how to make it. It's gonna be so good. To get started, I'm gonna make the crust. I'll grab some coconut oil and some shredded unsweetened coconut. He makes the crust using these crunchy chocolate cookies that are in the shapes of cats. So the ingredients call for 80 cats, but any crunchy chocolate cookie will do, and about 2 cups of them. I'm gonna hold my crust together with some coconut oil, which is gonna just up the coconuttiness of this pie. I'm gonna get 5 tablespoons, and this is unrefined coconut oil because it has that coconut flavor. And then I'll pulse this until the mixture is mealy. Okay, it's starting to hold together in the food processor, so I know that it's just about ready to form a crust. The last thing I'm gonna add is some coconut. So I'm adding 1/3 cup of coconut here, and then I'll pulse a few more times to combine. He makes it in a spring-form pan, so I'll dump my crust into the pan, flatten it out all around the bottom. This is ready to be baked. I'm gonna put this in the oven at 325 for 25 minutes. And meanwhile, I'm gonna toast some coconut for the top of my pie. I like using these big giant flakes because they look pretty, but the shredded coconut will work too. I'll just pour about 1/2 cup of this into my dry skillet. So toasting the coconut is gonna add great depth of flavor to this pie, and it'll also add a crispy topping. I'm gonna transfer it to a bowl. And my crust is almost done too, so I'm gonna check on that. Now I'm only using egg yolks in this because they're gonna contribute a lot of richness and they're gonna help my pudding thicken. It's important to make sure that my pot is cold because I don't want the yolks to cook and scramble. Now to my pot, I'm going to add 2 3/4 cup of milk, 2/3 cup of sugar, 1/3 cup of cornstarch, which will help my mixture get thick, 2 teaspoons of vanilla bean paste. I love the flavor of vanilla bean with coconut. Vanilla extract will also do. And then 3/4 teaspoon of salt to bring out all of these flavors. Now I'm gonna whisk this really well until it's smooth, and then I'm gonna turn the heat on just to prevent those egg yolks from cooking and scrambling in my mixture. Now that it's smooth and combined, I'm gonna turn my heat on to medium-high, and I'm gonna continue to whisk until it thickens. The soft, creamy pudding with the crispy crust is a great combination. I'll just fold in about 1.25 cups of my shredded coconut. It's ready to go into the pan. All right, I'll smooth it out evenly, and I want it to come up over the cookie crust so that when it sets and I take off the sides of the springform pan, I can see the 3 layers. Okay, and there it is. That is the base of my pie. I'm gonna have this set in the fridge for about 2 hours. Okay, guess what I made?
The famed coconut cream pie?
You guessed it.
Yay, my favorite.
We have to still put the whipped cream on. So
okay.
Do you want to measure out 1.5 cups of heavy whipping cream? I'm gonna beat this to stiff peaks.
Okay. Wow, this is beautifully toasted coconut. Look at
How's
that.
it looking?
Looks amazing. Whoa, yay.
Yay!
I thought it would be great to share some really fast barbecue recipes, whether you're having people over, going to someone's cookout, or just craving barbecue food at home alone. It happens to me all the time. I'm starting with a berry cheesecake icebox pie. Wow, so much deliciousness and very, very easy to throw together. So I just whipped some cream, and I have some things to add to this mixture. Sweetness in the form of powdered sugar, and then a whole block of cream cheese because this is a cheesecake icebox pie. And for a little hint of vanilla, I'm gonna add vanilla bean paste, which truly is amazing. So I'm gonna use the mixer just to carefully mix in the powdered sugar and the cream cheese. It won't take long to mix it together. This icebox pie is such a great summer recipe because you can make it ahead of time. It's very quick to throw together, and you can just park it in the fridge. And it's better if you do because then all the ingredients sort of meld and the whole thing is just divine. All right, so that's it for the cream cheese mixture. Very simple, no eggs or anything. And now for the berry mixture, I've just got a mix of raspberries and blackberries, and I'm gonna save some berries back to decorate the top of the icebox pie when I finish building it. And then I'm gonna zest a lemon and then add the lemon zest. Icebox pies are also great because you can change up the flavor. You can use whatever berries you want. I make strawberry icebox pies all the time. Can you tell I think about food a lot? I do. I admit it. Okay, that's it for the lemon zest. And then I'll squeeze the juice of half of the lemon into the berries. Now I want this mixture to be a little bit syrupy and saucy, so I'll add a couple of tablespoons of berry preserves. This is kind of a quick way to make a berry saucy mixture. Berry saucy. All right, that's it for the pretty berry mixture. I love the blackberries in this. They're so juicy and beautiful. So I am going to assemble the icebox pie. I'm using a loaf pan. I got a big piece of plastic wrap, and I put enough in it that I have sides that are overhanging. That's gonna come in handy soon. So I'm gonna start with a layer of graham crackers, and I'll just kind of break them up, overlap them, whatever I need to do to get a single layer in the bottom of this loaf pan. And cream cheese mixture, I'm gonna get about a quarter of this, and it goes right on the crackers. And I wanna spread it out so that it totally covers the first layer. And about a third of this berry mixture, which is getting juicier and juicier as it sits. Yum, yum. Berry desserts are definitely my favorite direction for desserts in the summertime. You don't have to be perfect about spreading out the berries, just kind of plop spoonfuls on the cream. And now I'm gonna do another layer just like that. Put one big graham cracker, some pieces. All right, more cream cheese mixture. Goodness gracious, this looks so good. And you get all that wonderful cheesecake flavor without having to do this complicated cheesecake process. More berries. Bear with me. Berry with me. Sorry. Oop. Okay. That's the second berry layer. So now I'm gonna do one last layer, and I'm gonna end with an additional layer of cookies and cream. So first, more crackers, more cream, the last of the berry compote, that final layer of crackers. So look at my berry cheesecake icebox pie. It's pretty much assembled. I just want to decorate the top with extra berries. Got blackberries and raspberries, and I usually don't try to orchestrate too much in terms of like the pattern of the berries. I just let them fall where they may. And pretty little sprigs of mint. Okay, that looks so good. Now, the reason I have this overhang is partly because I want to just very lightly cover the cake. You don't want to wrap it tight and smush the topping. So now this needs to go in the fridge for 4 hours, but trust me, it's going to be worth it. It is very difficult to be patient during the 4 hours of chill time. But as I promised, you will be very, very glad you were patient. So the icebox pie has been in the icebox. I feel like the name should be updated to fridge pie because, you know, nobody calls them iceboxes anymore. So here is part of the motivation for having this plastic wrap overhang. It allows you to lift the whole cake out and not mess up the cake in the process. Now, there's always this little sacrificial slice. Oh, okay, that's the first slice. That'll be my midnight snack later. All right, so I'm gonna get pretty generous with this. Let's see, oh, those graham crackers are perfectly soft. I still feel the tiniest bit of crunch, so they probably still have a really great texture. Get this onto a plate. Oh, wow. Okay, look at this. Really creamy layers. You can see the cookie in there. And honestly, some people serve their icebox pies or icebox cake with a spoon, so you could just scoop it out and serve it. It's not about being perfectly layered, but it is about being perfectly delicious. How beautiful, delicious, and easy can one dessert get? That was a rhetorical question, by the way.
Orange lime pie. Start with about 18 graham crackers. And we're not gonna do just regular graham crackers, it's cinnamon graham crackers. Why? Because I thought the flavor's already there on the cracker that we don't even have to work for, so let's make the crust out of that. All right, so once we've got about 18 in there, just completely cracked up, I've got a stick of butter that I've melted. I'm just gonna pour it and drizzle right in until it gets nice and crumbly. Oh, man. Yeah, don't buy this in the store. You can make your own graham cracker crust. All right, so pulse that a bit till it gets nice and crumbly for us. What we want is the butter to be on every little piece of our graham cracker. All right, it's not looking too bad, but we don't want it to be too moist and fall apart in our spring form that we're gonna put it in right now. So what I did basically was I just used the bottom of my glass to go around the edge, push down very firmly on your graham cracker crust, and make a nice rim. This is in a spring form, which is really good for this cake or pie because it's like a corset for the crust, and when it's done, we're gonna release it, and then we get the beautiful crust around the edge instead of looking at a pie pan. All right, I'm gonna get the inside started with separating 4 eggs. We're gonna do the yolks inside, and then the egg whites are gonna get room temp so we can make a beautiful meringue for our pie later. All right, the last of our egg yolk in. Remember, when you separate the yolk from the white, don't get any yolk in your whites because it's gonna make it super difficult for you to do the meringue later. We're gonna put some sweetened condensed milk in our orange lime pie with meringue. And when you go to the grocery store, the baking aisle is definitely gonna have 2 cans. One's evaporated, one's sweetened condensed milk. Make sure you get the right one, sweetened condensed milk. Basically, it's milk that has less moisture in it, so it's nice and thick, and it's sweetened, so it's perfect for our pie. All right, get that in there. And the next layer is gonna be our acid or our citrus. That's the orange, courtesy of the bottom drawer of my refrigerator when Natina asked me to go ahead and make the lime pie. And then I'm gonna go ahead and zest 2 limes. Now, usually when I put juice in something, I gotta put the zest in it as well. It's got some really good oils. So before I go to squeeze, I wanna get the oil out of the skin or the zest of my orange as well. So it's all nice and fragrant. Let me tell you, nothing's better than the essential oil from the skin, because when you bring that piece of pie to your face, what's better than smelling it before you taste it? All right, so squeeze your juice of your orange in. And if you've got a couple of limes that are hard, maybe 3 limes, but I'm gonna do 2 right now. Get that in. This is gonna be really good. It's a beautiful presentation as well when we do the spring form. You're gonna see the graham crust all around, nice golden brown, your custard in the center. The slice is amazing. Oh, the brown, then the custard, then the white of your meringue. Oh man, you're gonna be a superstar with this one. And as you can see, super easy ingredients. Eggs, sweetened condensed milk, some lime, some orange. Come on. All right, so all the juice is in the bowl. Whisk it up really quick. And look at that. Done. Pour it right in to our spring form pan. Now don't worry if it doesn't go all the way up to the lip, because we're gonna fill that with that white fluffy meringue that's gonna get nice and golden brown. All right, 350 degrees in our oven for about 35 to 40 minutes. Just keep watching till it gets brown around the edges. And that is waiting on our meringue we're gonna do in a minute. I'm gonna go ahead and add my room temp egg whites right here and get my meringue started. To that, we're gonna add some sugar, but just a minute. We've gotta let that get nice and fluffy for us, because if we put the sugar in right now, it's really, really gonna hinder all of the meringue getting nice and fluffy. Now all I gotta do is add some sugar to this and make it sweet and fluffy. Yeah, got the meringue done. The trick here is adding the sugar right towards the end once you start getting those soft peaks. It's really gonna make for a beautiful meringue. So I'm gonna top off my orange lime pie, put it in our broiler. Hey, welcome back. Now's the part of the show I really love, eating time. We've got our, oh wow, look at that meringue, took the words out of my mouth. This is our lime orange pie. I'm just going to go ahead and get that spring form off. Look at that. I'm telling you, throw in the sugar at the last second when you're doing the meringue. Oh man.
We're making classic Southern chess pie. I'm going to show you how to make a super buttery, flaky crust with a sweet yet tangy custard filling. I dare you just to eat one slice. We need to melt 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter. We also need to have 1 stick of cold unsalted butter. You need to have a 1/3 cup of water and preheat your oven to 400 degrees. We're doing this together, but at any time, if I get a little too far ahead of you, hit pause, finish what you need to do, and catch back up to me. Let's get started on our pie dough. Let's get 1 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. Ooh. You can level it off with your finger. Okay. Let's add to this a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. Okay. Give it a whisk. Let's grate our cold butter. It's important to have cold butter when making a pie crust or even making a biscuit. You want to create pea-sized bits of butter so it can thoroughly incorporate throughout the entire dough. And if your hands are a little warm and it starts to melt, don't worry about it. When it gets to that point, just dump it in there. We'll break it up with our fingers. Using your fingers, break up the butter until it turns into pea sizes. I love a good pie, and I'm a pie person because I like the crust. The more crust, the better. And this is my go-to pie crust recipe. Super simple. That looks like pea sizes to me. We're going to slowly add in our cold water. You gotta eyeball this. We're just adding in enough water until the dough forms a ball. Working it in with your hand. We need to add a little bit more. The dough should start to feel a little sticky. I think I need a little bit more. This should do the trick. Yep. We're going to use a little bit of flour. We call this bench flour. And this is to make sure your dough does not stick to your surface. Okay. Roll it around in the flour. You could use any more. You want to also eyeball this. Form a little ball. Okay. Take your rolling pin, also add flour to your rolling pin. I always use more than enough flour. We're just gonna roll this out until the dough forms about a 12-inch diameter. You want it a little bigger than your actual pie dish. Okay. That looks good to me. And I like to judge the size of my pie dough by just putting the dish on top. If it Looks like it's going a little bit bigger than the pie dish. That's enough. Okay, gather it up. Make sure you have some flour on your hands. So we're pushing up the sides. And there's two ways you can crimp your pie dough. You can either use your fingers to do it, or you can use a fork. I'm using a fork for this pie dough. Right, you just want to make sure that your sides are pushed up. All right, just pushing the pie dough up. All right, take a fork and just crimp around. Just use your fork to go around. Okay, we're gonna let our pie dough set up in the freezer for about 15 minutes. Hit pause and I'll meet you back here when it's done. It's been 15 minutes. Let's poke some holes in our pie crust. I'm using a toothpick. If you don't have a toothpick, just use a fork. Okay, grab some parchment paper. Place it in the center. Get some pie weights and put them in there. If you don't have pie weights, you can also use dried beans. The reason we're using pie weights is to keep the pie down. Sometimes when you blind bake a pie, it tends to puff up. The pie weights eliminate that. Let's head over to our oven. Our oven is set to 400 degrees. Pop it in there, bake it for 15 to 20 minutes. Hit pause and meet me back here. All right, it's been 15 minutes. Let's head back over here. Okay. Let's take our pie weights out. Okay. Now we're gonna do a simple egg wash for the crust. That helps to kind of lock in that flakiness and it makes it golden brown and shiny. 1 egg into a cup with a little water. All right. Give it a mix. Okay. Using a brush, let's brush our edges. And if it falls down, that's okay. We're just mainly concerned about the edges here. I can already tell how flaky this pie crust is going to be. It's my go-to recipe. Okay. Let's pop this back in the oven for an additional 10 minutes. Pop this back in here. Hit pause and I'll see you back here in 10 minutes. It's been 10 minutes. Let's take our pie crust out. I can already smell it, the start of something magical. Okay. We're gonna let our pie crust cool completely. Let's turn our oven down to 325 and let's get started on our filling. And the great thing about chess pie filling, not only is it a smooth and creamy custardy filling, it has another layer of texture from cornmeal. Let's start off by pouring in 6 tablespoons of unsalted melted butter. Okay. 1 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. Four eggs, the base of a custard, let's give it a whisk, breaking up that yolk. All right, let's add in that surprise element. 2 tablespoons of cornmeal, yellow cornmeal. Let's add in a 1/4 cup of buttermilk. Two teaspoons of vanilla extract. And a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Let's give it another whisk. Okay, making sure all of your egg yolks are broken. Okay. That looks creamy to me. Let's grab our pie crust. It should be cool to the touch, so you'll be able to pick it up without gloves. All right, let's slowly add in our custardy filling. That is so pretty. So rich in color. It's gonna rise just slightly as it bakes. All right, let's head over to our oven. Let's pop it in the oven. The oven should be set to 325 degrees. All right, so let's let that bake for 50 to 55 minutes. If you're peeking there halfway through and you notice that your crust is getting a little too brown, tint it with some foil. After 50 minutes, I want you to go in there with a toothpick, put it down the center. If it comes out clean, it is ready, baby. Take it out of the oven and let it cool for 3 to 4 hours. In the meantime, hit pause and meet me back there. All right, our pie is nice and cool. Let's take some powdered sugar and just dust it on top. I like doing this. Doesn't that look gorgeous? Let's take a slice. I'm gonna go in right here. Do you hear how crispy that is? Look how pretty that is. Grab a plate, put that on top. And if you want, you can add just a little bit more powdered sugar on top. Why not? Let's give it a taste. Ooh, child. That is good. Wow, it's creamy, custardy. Get a little bit of that tang from that buttermilk in there. That powdered sugar just seals the deal.
I'm making a pumpkin pie pudding. I'm starting with a softened banana here in a bowl, mashing it with a fork. You look for a really ripe one, let it sit on your counter and get nice and dark. And I'm gonna add into that some canned pumpkin.
Oh.
That goes right in. So mine has, some stuff that's good for you in there mixed in with the sugar.
Now, is that pumpkin pie filling or just straight up pumpkin?
It's straight up pumpkin. Okay. And I always find that I open a can of that and I've got just a little left. So I'll either mix it in my yogurt in the morning or I'll put it in a smoothie, or like this, you can make a little pumpkin pie pudding with it.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm gonna add to it my vanilla pudding. So that goes right in.
There's the pudding part, vanilla.
Yeah, a little vanilla pudding, and that's gonna give us our nice sweetness and richness. Mix it, mix it, mix it, and I've got pumpkin pie spice.
Okay, your best
I love
friend.
the pumpkin pie spice, so put some of that in, and just really, really mix it. There we go, it's looking good. And now I'm gonna put it into my little cup here.
Oh. Wow, salivating over here.
Peanut gallery. The only judges that matter are the three sitting there.
Yeah, you're right about
Not you
that.
guys.
All the power's in your hands, kids.
And I'm gonna add some sliced banana to it, and then I've got crushed graham crackers here.
Okay.
Give it a nice little curb appeal. little texture.
Very good.
Beautiful.
There it is.
Double chocolate pie is always a winner. It's really rich, super delicious, and everybody absolutely adores it. And that's the most important part. It starts with 1.5 cups of sugar, 1/4 cup of cornstarch. I added about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And now comes 3 cups of whole milk. This is basically a chocolate pudding filling for this pie. I'm gonna pour it inside a deep, rich, chocolatey crust. Now I'll add 4 beaten egg yolks, and then I'm gonna turn this heat on about medium, and I'll whisk it together while it slowly heats up. Now you could add vanilla and stop right here, and you'd have a vanilla pie filling. I'm not happy with vanilla pie. I'm gonna make a chocolate pie, and it's as easy as just adding some bittersweet chocolate. And I have to say, this never gets old. Watching this chocolate melt and swirl into that pudding filling, oh my goodness. Okay, now once the chocolate is all melted, you wanna add 2 tablespoons of butter, and that just makes the filling a little bit more silky and rich. And then a little bit of vanilla. And then it's just about stirring until the butter is melted, and that takes about 4.3 seconds because this filling is so hot. Okay, I turned off the heat. So now that the filling's ready, I'm gonna grab the base for the pie. It's just a really simple chocolate crust. I used 9 chocolate graham crackers and added some melted butter and 3 tablespoons of sugar, pressed it into a pie pan and baked it at 350 for 4 minutes. Really simple. Now this is a very monumental occasion. Look at this. We don't even have to talk. We can just stare. Oh, it's so silky and beautiful. And if you play your cards right, you'll have a little extra filling left over. Now, I like to put wax paper on top of this chocolate pie filling. It's so much better than plastic wrap. You can actually press it against the filling, just let it naturally stick. And then after it chills, the wax paper peels off pretty neatly. Now, this is gonna keep setting as it cools in the fridge. I'm gonna pop it in there for 3 hours. As if that double chocolate pie isn't scrumptious enough, I'm gonna top it with a beautiful glossy meringue. So gorgeous. This is a really dramatic, beautiful pie. Okay, I'm adding 1/4 cup of corn syrup to a little saucepan, and I'll add 1/3 cup of sugar, along with a couple of tablespoons of water, a pinch of salt, and I'm gonna turn the heat up pretty high. And I want to get this just to the bubbling point. It's not going to take long at all. You know, I don't normally put meringue on my pies. I save it for when I'm going to serve a pie around the holidays or if I'm having a dinner party. A meringue-topped pie just looks like you spent a little extra time on it. Okay, this is totally bubbling away, so I'm going to turn off the heat and move on to step 2 of the meringue. Now it's all about whisking the egg whites. I'm using 2, and I'll keep whisking them until they're frothy. Okay, now I'll add 1/8 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar and another little pinch of salt. And this is the fun part. I'm gonna grab this hot syrup, and with the mixer still going, I'm gonna drizzle it in a really small stream. The only thing that can mess up the meringue is impatience on your part. You've got to go really, really slow. Okay, just a little bit more. All right. Now I'm going to turn up the speed, and I'm going to let it keep whipping until stiff peaks form. Won't take long. The meringue looks marvelous. Beyond marvelous. All right, I'm gonna peel the wax paper off of the pie, and look, exactly as I promised, just a teeny bit came up. Okay, now I'm gonna put all of the meringue on top. Look at this, gorgeous and just bright white. And then I'm gonna use just a metal spoon to kind of smush this and spread it. And then you don't have to get fancy at the end, but you do want to have really pretty peaks in the meringue. Tap it here and there and sort of pull away. And I think that's about as good as my meringue peaks are gonna get. So I'm gonna use a torch to toast the little tips of the meringue. And it's just like toasting a marshmallow. If you hold it there for too long, it'll catch on fire. And then you'll have, whoop, a little black tip right there. But that's okay. Okay, I think I better stop. Sometimes I'll go too far when it comes to toasting meringue. Now I'm gonna put the pie on a beautiful cake stand. So that's the double chocolate pie. Let me tell you how I'm gonna serve it up. So for a little slice of pie heaven, I'll cut carefully through the meringue and filling, then use a cake slicer to lift it out. Oh my gosh, how divine is that?
A strawberry pie.
Strawberry pie!
Yes, I know.
Strawberry pie!
Yeah, when he speaks with a southern accent, it's gonna be good.
To start off, we have a store-bought, yes, I know, crust. But it's beautiful.
I mean,
Why not?
what?
I'm just
It's
shocked that
summertime.
you usually have, you know,
You know, it's summer. We want to spend a little less
Yes.
time in the kitchen with our guests. They're
and they're
more
delicious too.
Is that pie blind baked?
Yes, it is. So we have 3.5, 4 pounds of strawberries. What I've done is I've cut a few in a different way. So what I like to do is bake a strawberry base that I'm going to cook slightly, and then have some fresh strawberries that I've marinated to add when they're cold, so you get a different texture of strawberries.
Interesting.
See, Jeezy, that's why it's okay for you to use the store-bought shortcut of the pie crust, because you're making the pie filling, and a lot of people
Exactly.
would do both.
All right, we have the strawberries here. So these strawberries are just quartered. We have some that are diced, and into the diced strawberries, we're going to reserve these. I'm going to put elderflower, liqueur,
Love that.
a little sugar
Yeah.
to let them marinate. 5, 10 minutes. That's it.
Why do you like the elderflower with this?
I just love the
Describe the flavor of it.
It's hard to describe. It's like a purple rain, you know?
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay,
man.
Paisley Park.
Look at
You know
this.
that gorgeous sort of floral, you're in the fields after.
No,
covers
stick
your
with purple
whole
rain. I think the
everything.
whole world just
Purple rain,
understood.
people.
Yeah.
Okay, we're just gonna toss it like that, let it sit, and we've sliced them fresh for the top. These we're gonna put in a pan, just like this, okay?
You know my theory about strawberries?
What?
No matter how many times you look when you're chopping them, there's gonna be a leaf.
Right?
There is
Yeah.
sugar,
You eat
cornstarch,
It's not a big theory,
You
it's
eat
just a
it.
theory. Yeah,
sugar, cornstarch, just about 3.5 tablespoons, and strawberry jam, just to get a little density to it, and fresh lemon juice. You're gonna let that cook for about 15, 20 minutes, not a lot of time. But you don't want to denature the strawberry too much. And what's gonna happen is it's gonna look like this. Can you see this?
Oh, God. They on some vanilla ice cream.
Denature meaning you don't want it to be mushy. You still want some integrity.
Color's still there.
Oh,
It's
look
not.
at
It's,
Look at that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Okay. So now to get that extra zhuzh, you know, we're gonna like make it like special. We're gonna take these beautiful marinated strawberries and we're gonna fold it in to the cooked strawberries. So
I
we have
like that.
3 kinds of strawberries: cooked, sliced, and raw. And just like this. Okay. It's a very simple dessert. Make sure at this stage it must be cold.
Okay.
Don't want to put the strawberries that are fresh into warm. It just kills the whole point of it. All right? And then we're going to put it into our crust. Oh,
That is
Luscious.
bright.
Beautiful.
Bright.
Okay, yeah, with a B.
With
the B. This goes in the fridge. Probably 3, 4 hours. You want to get it nice and cold. All right, I have one here that I've done a little earlier. Okay? And then the next step is some decoration. This has absolutely nothing to do with flavor, it's just decoration. Okay, so we're gonna
Oh,
take
the
some very
fridge is
thinly
open
sliced
behind you.
strawberries.
Hey,
And we're gonna go around like
you
this.
don't live in a. You don't live. I got it.
You're rich.
You're doing that. I got.
Thank you.
Don't worry.
Thank you,
I got you.
You're gonna go in circles, just spiral all the
Concentric
way.
circle spiral, I have one done.
Oh, look at this.
all
guy.
right.
Thank you.
Hold on.
Hold on. So many pies laying
I
around.
count 3 pies. I'm doing pie mouth right now.
1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Back in the fridge, and that's what it looks like.
Oh, come on.
It's like a diner, almost a little diner.
Beautiful.
Put it. You left
I
it
love
open
this
against
fridge
Dunad. Come on.
No, my fridge guy's off today. So
I got a fridge guy.
got a fridge guy. Okay.
Who doesn't? Are we the
Who
only
doesn't,
ones?
exactly. Okay, so you ready? You ready? Who's tasting this?
Both.
Both.
So you don't want to do this when the strawberries are not fresh, because that's the point of it all.
You've ever heard of like the strawberry pretzel pie in the South?
Pretzel?
Oh, it's crazy, yeah. Pretzel
Yeah,
crust,
I think I've read about it before,
a little
but
bit of cream cheese in there.
it's as far as I got. First pie slice.
First pie slice. It's like a first crepe, you know?
I tell you bring this to the potluck this summer, the barbecue, the dance marathon.
Yep.
Got a couple of them about to hit up this summer. You are gonna be the star.
I'm gonna get another slice. This
I'll
is
take
boy.
the first slice, Jeezy. I don't mind
a little
the first
stickage,
one.
but it's okay.
We believe in you.
Oh, look
Oh,
at that.
wow.
Little vanilla cream.
What kind of little chantilly cream? You got a
Little
little
chantilly
vanilla bean
Oh,
in it?
Jeezy, fancy-fied.
I'm making a cranberry custard pie, and it has this really, really flaky, buttery crust. So I'm gonna start on the crust first, okay? I'm using 1.5 cups of self-rising flour. In the South, we use a lot of self-rising flour, mainly for biscuits, so it's actually gonna taste like a buttery biscuit. I'm adding in a stick of cold, unsalted butter. I've cut them into cubes so they can break up really easily inside the dough. Add a little pinch of salt in there, 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar. Give it a pulse. So I'm gonna pulse this together, and that looks like that is broken up. Gonna open up my top here and add in a tablespoon of cold water. And I'm gonna slowly pour this in until my dough forms a ball. Now the water amount will change. It just depends on how damp your kitchen is. It's getting there. Yep, there's the ball. Add a little bench flour to my cutting board. I'm pressing down to make a nice little disc because later I'm gonna roll this out and form that pie crust. So I have some plastic wrap here. I'm gonna set this in my fridge and it's gonna chill for about 30 minutes. So my dough has been chilling for 30 minutes. I'm gonna roll it out now. Put a little bit more bench flour on my surface here. Put some more flour on top. And it's important to put flour on both sides. It'll stick if you don't, okay? I have a 9-inch pie dish. What I wanna do is roll it until it's about 12 inches or a little larger than my pie dish. All right, this looks great to me. Put it inside my pie dish. Taking this little excess dough here and just folding it under. The thing about crimping, you can do whatever you feel comfortable with doing. You can make these nice little indents with your finger, like you'll put your finger in here and then you'll crimp it with your thumb, like that. Or if you're more comfortable, like I like to do sometimes, is just use a fork. Put little indents in it just like that. So I'm gonna pop this back in the fridge while I make my filling. Now this custard, all right, simple custard. 2 cups of granulated sugar, 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. That's gonna help that custard stay nice and together. And 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now for my wet ingredients. 4 eggs. That's what the base of a custard is. Eggs and sugar. 1/2 cup of heavy cream. The zest of 1 orange. Citrus and cranberry complement each other really, really well. I'm gonna add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So that's combined. Now I'm gonna add my dry to my wet. All right, that is done. Let me grab my pie crust. So I have 4 cups of thawed frozen cranberries. I'm pouring this at the bottom because once I pour the custard on top, it's just gonna rise to the top. You see how they're starting to float to the top? Yes. So by the time it bakes, I'm just gonna have this really pretty layer of cranberries on top. So I got my oven preheated to 350. I'm gonna bake this for about 50 minutes.
My apple pie bars are kind of a mashup between apple pie and shortbread bars. So I've got 1 pound of butter. Okay, the next thing is 3/4 cup of sugar. 1/2 cup of brown sugar. I use light brown sugar. 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Now, the really important thing here is that the butter is at room temperature. So when you mix it, it gets nice and light and fluffy, and then you can add the other ingredients. You want to start it slow, and then gradually increase it. And what I've done is sift together 4 cups of flour, it's all-purpose flour, and 1½ teaspoons of kosher salt. I sifted them to make sure that they got really well combined. And now I'm just going to add them slowly to the mixture. And what I do is I turn the mixture down low, and rather than dump the whole thing in, which means it probably won't mix in well, I'm just going to do this slowly. Okay. Perfect. So this is really what you want it to look like. You want it to be soft and light and fluffy, but it will also hold together. And so if it doesn't do that, just add a teaspoon of water. First, I grease the bottom so it'll stick. And I want to be able to lift this whole thing out when I'm done. So I put parchment paper in, but I don't want it to fall into the pan. So I just take little metal clips, make sure there's no plastic on it, and just clip this piece of parchment paper right to the pan. Voila. So now I've got the shortbread dough, and I'm going to put 2/3 of it in the bottom of the pan. And then with floured hands, which is the best way to spread this out, I'm just going to spread it out into the pan. So I just want an even layer. This is my little trick. I take a metal baking cup and I flour the bottom. And so with a cup, you can kind of press it into the corner. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to refrigerate this for 20 minutes. Then I'm going to bake it 375 for about 18 to 20 minutes until it's golden brown and delicious. And then I'm going to cool it. Happily, I've got one already done. How good does that look? It's incredible. I combined 1½ pounds each of sliced Granny Smith apples and golden delicious apples. I added 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice to stop the apples from browning, 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, then some classic apple pie spices, a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1/8 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and mixed it all together. Then I added the apples to a pot containing 4 tablespoons of melted butter and let it simmer for 15 minutes, just until the apples were tender. That was pretty easy, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do with the apples is I'm going to spread them out on the shortbread crust. So there's just a little bit like a 1/2 inch border around the edge. Okay, so that's it for the apples. So I have 1/3 of the shortbread left in the mixer. I'm just going to add a few things to give it even more flavor and crunch. So 1/2 cup of chopped walnuts, a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, mixer back on, just enough on a low speed just to get it all mixed together. Okay, last a little bit. How good does this look? Okay, next I'm going to show you how I bake, cut, and serve the bars. The pan goes into a 375-degree oven for 25 to 30 minutes. Then when the time's up and the topping is browned, I'll take them out and let them cool completely. Then use the parchment to lift the slab out of the pan onto a board. Slide the paper out, then cut it into 12 squares with a large, sharp knife. I just serve the bars right on the cutting board. I love the way it looks. So that's apple pie bars. Apple pie in the form of a bar. Who wouldn't want to eat that? I do.
I'm making my tahini fudge pie, which has this really thick cookie crust, a fluffy filling, and then this layer of chewy fudge hiding in the middle. To get started, I'm gonna melt 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter. While this melts, I'll start blending my cookies. I've got 30 chocolate sandwich cookies. I'll also add a teaspoon of instant espresso powder, which just intensifies the chocolate flavor. I'll add a couple pinches of salt, and then I'll blend it to a fine crumb. All right, as this continues to blend, I'm gonna drizzle in the butter. Oh yeah, I've got a 9-inch pie plate here. I like a thick pie. I'll just pour the crust right in. I'll spread it out evenly. I wanna make sure it goes all the way up the sides and pack it firmly. I just love the texture of a firmly packed crust. Okay, this crust looks great. I'll stick it in the oven at 350 degrees for 6 minutes, and while that bakes, I'll get started on my decadent fudge. I'm gonna melt a stick of butter, then add 1 cup of sugar and 1 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder. a teaspoon of instant espresso powder to punch it up. I'll add a good pinch of salt to bring out all these flavors, and then half of a cup of heavy cream. We'll make it really rich and creamy. And stir to combine. Okay, this fudge is glossy and gorgeous. I'm gonna check if my pie crust is ready. Oh, it smells heavenly. I'm gonna add my layer of fudge now. I'll pour this right in, but I'm gonna save some to swirl on at the end. Oh yeah. This is gonna be the best surprise in the bottom of the pie. I'll let this set in the fridge and then work on my final step, the creamiest step, my tahini filling. This is a 1 bowl, no bake filling that is good enough to eat by itself with a spoon. I'm gonna start with my tahini. I'll add 1.5 cups. It adds that delicious sesame flavor. I'll also add 4 ounces of softened cream cheese for that delicious tanginess. 1.5 cups of powdered sugar, and then half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. A teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then a good pinch of kosher salt to bring out all these flavors. Okay. Now that this is combined, I'm gonna add 1.5 cups of heavy cream. With my mixer on low, I'll drizzle this in. And then I'll increase my mixer and let it come to medium peaks. I'm gonna grab my pie shell. It's cooled and the fudge is firm. It's gonna be so nice and chewy. I'll pour in my tahini filling. Oh yeah, baby. I'm gonna grab my reserved fudge now, and then I'll drizzle this over the tahini filling. It's gonna be so pretty. I'm gonna do these luxurious marbly designs. You know what it needs? Flaky salt, just for a little sparkly on top.
Chocolate butterscotch pie. I'm gonna go ahead and get my pan heated up, and I'm gonna throw some butter down, 2 tablespoons. You know, when you get the butterscotch at the store, just look at the label. So many different colors and flavors and additives and preservatives are going on in there. Really, do you want that when you know if you make it at home, it's just a matter of getting in some heavy cream, some Caro, some brown sugar, and that's it. It's gonna be buttery and yummy and flavorful. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get some brown sugar in here with my butter. See, almost using the rest of my brown sugar here. Get some corn syrup in as well. I'm gonna get this all melted together with a nice little pinch of salt. What I wanna do now is kind of make this dark amber color that we're looking for a little bit light and golden with our heavy cream. Make sure you just whisk it in. About 1/4 cup is all you need to get something going, and look at that. It's gonna be so good on our chocolate butterscotch pie. And like I said, I know you can get it at the grocery store, but when you see how easy it is to make it at home, come on, why not? So that's it. That's done. Just gonna let that cool down and get ready for the pie. What I wanna do now is start working on the pie, and I gotta get my mascarpone cheese out of the fridge, a ready-made chocolate crust, some vanilla, some chocolate chips that are gonna be great in this as well. This is a pie that I love to make, and I gotta say, kind of like a pint of ice cream, I could finish this whole thing by myself. It's very scary to see. I often do it alone, but this is great for having with friends as well, too, especially if at your tailgating party, there's some kids coming by to hang out. All right, so the entire 8 ounces of my mascarpone right there. Now I wanna get 1.5 cups of the heavy cream in and start working them together and get them nice and creamed up. 1.5 cups. Now, a lot of times, you'll see mascarpone cheese and say a tiramisu recipe. It's really not cheese, just so you know. It's more of a very thick and heavy cream that they process kind of like a cheese. That's why they call it mascarpone cheese. But man, when you get this into a pie like this, it's gonna be very velvety, creamy. It's just a great addition to this pie. A little pinch of salt, and I'm just gonna go ahead and pour in a little bit of vanilla extract as well. And that's all you need. All right, now I'm gonna get a little bit of sugar into the situation because, come on, it is a pie and we do have chocolate and butterscotch to go along with it. So I want the inside to be nice and sweet and fluffy. So 1/2 cup of sugar right in here, and that's it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and combine this and then bring up the speed on this and make sure that it gets to nice, soft peaks And you'll know it's soft peaks because when you bring your paddle out of it or a spoon or anything, it just kind of falls over lightly and gently and not hard peaks, which is kind of stiff and straight up. This is what you're going for here, right at the end, nice and velvety. Any further than this, it's gonna start to granulate and get choppy looking. So this is good to go and ready for the mini chocolate chips I'm gonna hit it with. And I do mini chocolate chips because the big ones, this is a refrigerator pie. It's cold. When you bite into it, it's too big of a crunch to me, so I like to use the tiny one. Get this off and get my chips in the bowl. This is gonna be so good and creamy, and it's just perfect if you have kids hanging out too for the tailgating party. Makes everyone feel like a little kid inside. Just get the chocolate in there. Just give it a nice little fold, make sure it's all mixed in so every single slice is exactly the same and no one's fighting over the one with more pieces of chocolate. And then get it right in to the pre-made cookie crust. Now you can make this at home, of course, if you have some chocolate cookies, just crumble them up in a processor along with some butter that's melted, a little pinch of sugar, a little pinch of salt, and you are good to go. Look at that. Now, of course, I've got my butterscotch here on the side. I took some time to make it home. I know you can buy it at the grocery store, but there's just so many extra ingredients in the one that you buy at the grocery store, the coloring, the flavoring. When you do it at home, it's just butter, corn syrup, brown sugar, a little pinch of salt. When it gets that brown, dark amber color, you hit it with some heavy cream and it's good to go. Why worry about preservatives and stuff? All right, so I'm gonna put this in the freezer because I'm hungry and I wanna eat this in about an hour. But if you have 3 hours, you can put it in the refrigerator and you're good to go as well. All right, here is our chocolate butterscotch pie, really easy. I got the store cut or the store-bought pie crust, chocolate crumbs, of course. And then what I'm doing now is just gonna go in with my knife, get it out. We have mascarpone cheese in here. Also some heavy cream, little vanilla, little sugar, and you are at the finish line. Get this on my plate here. Let me show you how I like to do dessert. Really, I'd take one piece out and eat the rest of the pie. All right, baby, come on out. Look at how creamy that is. Take it to soft peaks when you're blending it, and that's gonna make it so yummy. Look at that. Our homemade butterscotch sauce right over the top. Let me dig into this. Smooth, velvety, chocolate, buttery. That's all I gotta say.
My blueberry pie. Very
Butter
easy.
firms up again.
Flour, unsifted. Sugar, salt, a quick little mix. Stop.
look, it's
then
so
we
easy.
So then we're gonna go to the fridge or freezer. The butter has to be really cold and chopped into cubes. We're gonna pulse this until it comes to be little pebbles. And then we're gonna add some milk, 1 yolk. That's it. You're gonna gather that, put it in a roll like that. You're gonna put there in a plastic wrap in the fridge. Fantastic. Look how beautiful that is. See that?
And it feels so good. This dough really has a nice touch to it.
All right, the main event. You really got to get really good blueberries. Wait till the summer comes to buy them. Flour,
Well, we've got some really fun varietals.
cornstarch.
Blueberries.
Got to have cornstarch.
Yep.
Salt, cinnamon,
Okay.
and then sugar.
That's
now,
right.
this is the part one. You just want to toss this gently. And the point of this is to really get, to douse the blueberries in the cornstarch. The cornstarch really is the key to this. Then we're going to add to this some honey,
Interesting.
some vanilla, as much vanilla as humanly possible, some lemon juice, lemon zest. All right. Are you almost ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, we're just gonna put this all
Perfect
together.
timing.
Now, normally, you'll see a pool of juice in the bottom. There's no pool here, and that's because we put that honey in. All right. Now, really, really well mixed. Beautiful, gorgeous
Yeah, that looks
pie.
fantastic.
And the other rule about making pie is don't
it
drop
smells
anything.
so good.
But you have to overfill it to some
Yep.
extent.
I put it on top?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know how to crimp, you want to crimp, right?
mine off.
And you don't have to get crazy. And then we're just going to cut around the edge. And then, Katie, would you put a couple of sort of little vent holes on top of here? Just a few slits. So you preheat your oven, and I mean seriously preheat your oven. okay?
Should I put it in?
Little egg wash. This is with water. You can put just straight. And then sugar. You need to have a sweet crust. You know, there's a whole school of thought. The crust is really incredible. 425, 15 minutes, center of the oven. Then you reduce it to 375, 60 to 70 minutes. It's a long bake. Take it out, let it rest. At least 2 or 3 hours, or maybe more. You want it to be almost just barely warm or room temperature is the way you want to eat it.
I mean, this is a beauty.
Wow, lovely.
Who needs to go to the pie shop?
Thank you,
to
Mom.
do that?
That is
Thank you,
summer.
Martha.
Oh.
Should we taste? Are we ready?
I went to her house.
Looking
Oh,
fat.
wow.
Wow,
Oh,
baby.
yes.
High and tight.
High and tight.
It's like a haircut.
I'm
Just
trying
made
to
a
stay
pie
away
that's
from the
like
pie.
a 12 out of 10, honestly. I'm gonna bake my mom's signature cranberry pie. I love it. It's a really unusual way to use cranberries. They're so beautiful, they're vibrant. So I wanna make a pie crust that really does them justice and brings that tang to the forefront. So I start with 5 cups of all-purpose flour, and to that I add 2 teaspoons of salt and 2 teaspoons of granulated sugar. That's the dry foundation for my pie crust. So once I get the flour, sugar, and salt together, then we add in the shortening. Now listen, I hear you on the shortening because you're thinking, use butter. I like to use shortening here because I think it has a more neutral flavor than butter does. I don't want that buttery taste in the crust. I actually want that buttery taste to come out in the filling. So I just add 2 cups of shortening in here, and I just start working it in. And I start with the spatula, just kind of pressing the shortening into the dough. So you can see it changing texture. You can see the flour forming those little pea-shaped balls you often read about in cookbooks and recipes. So then I start working it in with my hands a little bit. It's definitely more effective, but the heat from my hands is something that puts a time limit on this. Okay, now I'm gonna measure out 2/3 of a cup of ice water, and then I just pour that ice water right in here. And you see that ice water really changes the dough and it really comes together. Now that we've made the pie crust, I want to chill it down a little bit. And I'll do that by dividing it into 2 equal parts and pressing it down into some plastic wrap and chilling it up in the fridge. So at this point, you can actually save yourself a lot of grief if you just press your dough out a little bit into this little plastic package, because it's as if most of the rolling has been done already. So I'll just make my little pie crust sandwich, top, bottom, into the fridge to take a little nap. So once the pie crust is knocked out of the way, let's face it, the really fun part about making a pie is getting the filling together. Cranberries are really tart, so I always like to add a little bit of another fruit to kind of round it out. If we have a few slices of Anjou pear, it's just gonna add richness to the texture of the fruit filling. For this pie, I find that a slightly underripe pear is actually better, and that makes buying a little easier because you don't have so much pressure to buy it perfect. Cut the pears into slices, and since they're gonna cook a little bit, don't worry so much about them being perfectly thin. Stay between, say, 1/4 and 1/2 inch in thickness. So for my pie filling, to create a little contrast, I'm gonna use butter. So I start by just melting a tablespoon or so. I add those pears in, give them a little toss just to coat them with the butter. So once the pears start to melt down a little bit in the butter, just give them a minute, and then we're gonna start adding in those little Thanksgiving-y touches. I'll start with a tablespoon of corn syrup, 3 whole cloves, a little bit of orange zest right over the top, the equivalent of about a tablespoon. But the heart of this pie actually lives with the cranberries. 1 more tablespoon of butter. I just want to toss the cranberries, get a little of the liquid out of them, soften them slightly before I mix them with everything and put them in the pie. So I just drop 24 ounces of cranberries. Look at how beautiful that is. Now the cranberries are tart, and to bring that out to the foreground even more, a squeeze of lemon juice. And then because we added lemon juice to a really tart fruit, I will add 1/2 cup of regular sugar. Now it's time to put these 2 halves together. The pear with the orange zest and the cloves, the real aromas of Thanksgiving. And then the main ingredient, the cranberries. And you can see just from cooking them, for 1 minute with the sugar. See all that pectin coming out? That wonderful, thick, kind of jammy liquid? That's the stuff pies are made of. My head gets lower and lower and closer to the bowl as I stir. And just to make sure that this pie comes together, I'll add in a tablespoon of cornstarch. I'll just strain it over the top. So now that this pie filling is really coming together, I'll let it cool so we can start building our pie. Okay, so I'm building the pie now. Now, after the pie crust has chilled down a little bit in my fridge, that's when I roll out the bottom and the top, the 2 layers, and I start building this delicious pie. Now, because the cranberry filling has a decent amount of liquid in it, I'm not gonna prick or dock the dough on the bottom at all. I'll leave it intact. So once this is rolled to a similar thickness as the bottom, I do the same thing I did with it, and I just roll it up on the pin, give the filling a nice stir, and start loading it up. And then we bring this Thanksgiving pie home by tucking it into the little crust bed. You see that wonderful little crevice right there? That's what pie is all about. I like to keep the crust nice and thick, because I love when I cut a piece of pie and the crust is kind of poking up a little bit. And then we cut our little window into the soul of the pie. So I do it just the way my mom did it. I cut an X in the center and just open up these little windows. So I'll put this pie in the fridge. Let's get that pie that's been napping so gently in the fridge into the oven. So I start this pie off at a very high temperature, 425 degrees. I'll cook it for about 10 minutes, and then we'll start lowering the temperature gradually. So for the finishing touch, just cover the top of this with granulated sugar.
Oh, brownie pecan pie.
Okay, I'll take it. You ready for this?
Starting with the brownie batter. Sonny, we got some pecans.
Yep.
Rough chop those for me, please. Here I got some melted butter. We're gonna add this to a bowl. We're gonna make this batter, right? Little unsweetened chocolate. Okay. Swirly, swirly. We're gonna get this all melted. That's nice warm butter. A little vanilla. Some salt.
My rough chop method.
Look at you, you're not even using a knife.
Just twist.
That's very smart.
Just a little twist.
That's a mental note to add that to the recipe. Just changing my recipe before my eyes, I guess.
Try to be like GZ.
All right, we just put some vanilla in there, of course, some sugar. Whisk in a couple eggs, some flour.
Quick note about those pecans, do not store them in the pantry.
No.
Fridge or freezer.
They are full of oil and they will go rancid fast.
Right? And they ain't cheap.
No.
And they don't usually come in tiny packages either,
No.
so
Yeah.
freeze them on a sheet pan too, and then put them in a bag so you can take out what you need. We are putting the flour in there. Look at that, beautiful brownie batter. And now the chunks
Jeff.
of semi-sweet. Just fold that in. And the best part about a brownie, I think, is when it does come out of the oven, it does set up, it does bake, you get the crunch from those whole chocolate chips in there. Beautiful. Sonny, I have a pre-made pie crust in the fridge, ready to go. I ain't hating on pre-made. There's like
it's pretty.
4 or 5 options at a lot of grocery stores.
Yeah.
Some fluted, some flat, whatever. I like the
nice.
fluted one because it does look a little more homemade, if
Like
you
you
will.
did something. If you ever get one that's like a little bit cracked, like
Yep.
sometimes the ridge is cracked, just a little bit of water or heavy cream and pinch it back together.
Oh, that's
I've done that
fantastic.
before.
Okay, great. So pecans, do me a
you want
favor,
that?
throw them in that butter, get them started in there, okay?
All right.
While I put this brownie batter in that pie crust. And we're gonna bake this in the oven, 350 for about 40, 45 minutes. Like you would a cake, you gotta test this with a toothpick or a skewer, okay? I got one ready to go right here. And you wanna make sure that pie crust is cold when you put it in the oven. Makes it nice, light, and flaky. Look at all that chocolate melted in there. And how do you know it's a great brownie? Look at that, shiny.
Oh, yeah.
Top. Beautiful. Now we have a brownie pie here. Oh, Geoffrey, this is right up your alley, huh? So easy to do.
So
We're
easy.
not done. We got some dark brown sugar, some cinnamon, some nutmeg, some salt. All right, that's going in there, as well as some vanilla. Okay. Another little pat of butter. Some water, just to kind of loosen it up just a little bit. And then some corn syrup.
Oh.
You gotta have that, I think, in like a pecan pie topping, right? It gives it that, I don't know, that glossiness, right? Kind of need that. So this is all gonna kind of come together. We're not really gonna cook this or reduce it much. We just want it pourable still, but warm when we put it over the pie. The pecans on the brownie pie.
You let it harden up?
Like now? Here we go. Geoffrey's the best in pie cutting. It's brownie.
Oh, stop it right now.
Stop.
Oh, no!
Stop it right now.
Carolina mud pie. It's a no-bake pudding-based pie. It has a chocolatey crust at the bottom, a little layer of chocolate at the bottom, some pecans, you got a pudding that goes on top, and whipped cream on top of that. Muddy, chocolatey, amazing. So I have 22 chocolate sandwich cookies here, putting into my food processor to make the crust. Why 22? Because you need the butter to chocolate cookie sandwich ratio perfect. Because if it's too much chocolate sandwich cookies and not enough butter, it's not gonna come together and you're just gonna have a crust that's gonna break apart, okay? Get this thing going. Right, forgot my salt. A 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. I have 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I have a 9-inch pie dish. And you see why it's called a mud pie? The crust looks like fertile soil. I'm gonna let this set up in the freezer for about 30 minutes. While this is in the freezer, I'm gonna get started on that chocolate layer. So I'm gonna heat this to medium high. I'm just making a simple chocolate sauce. I have 4 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate chips, a 1/4 cup of sweetened condensed milk, a tablespoon of vegetable oil. This is gonna help keep it nice and loose. All I'm making is like a chocolate shell. And you know, you can buy this in the store pre-made, but I'm telling you, once you make it at home, you'll never buy that stuff in the store again. It's super simple. All you need is some type of oil. I like using coconut oil sometimes. You can use veggie oil like I just used, some chocolate, some milk, that's it. All right, this is done. Let me turn my heat off and grab that pie crust out of the freezer. All right, my pie crust is set up quite nicely. I'm gonna take a spoon and get some of this chocolate out. I'm just gonna spread it over the bottom. And as soon as it hits that cold pie crust, it's started to set up and it's already hardened. Look at that. I have a 1/4 cup of chopped pecans. This pie has some serious layers. I mean, this is gonna be crunchy and smooth with that pudding on top. All right, I'm gonna set this to the side and get started on my pudding. I'm making a simple pudding mixture, and don't judge me. Yes, I am using box pudding. I mean, sometimes, hey, box pudding works and there's nothing wrong with it. I have 1 large box of instant chocolate pudding. I'm gonna whisk in 1 3/4 cup of cold milk. That's how that pudding is gonna set up. Super simple. If you wanna make your pudding from scratch, you can. I'm gonna make it from the box and it's gonna taste just as good. My pudding is starting to set up. That cold milk does the trick. Now I'm gonna fold in a 1/2 cup of whipped topping. Smooth it out with my spatula. I'm so excited about this. I mean, I really, guys, I'm telling you, I am a chocolate lover. All right, I'm taking some of that whipped topping I have left over. I'm just gonna put a little something in the middle of that. Giving it just a little zhuzh in the middle there. Right, so I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator and let it set up for at least 4 hours. If you have some time, you can let it set up overnight.
Oh my word.
And let me know what you think.
Ooh. Girl, this is good. And you got a little topping here, huh?
You got toppings. You got to get into the toppings. I got some more crushed sandwich cookies. Got some pecans here.
Yes. And let me have that chocolate syrup over there.
Oh, yeah,
girl, you know I love
sauce.
Yes.
I'm making my favorite cherry pie. Jeff, I'm gonna have you help me out.
Favorite.
You're gonna get started on the filling.
Okay.
So you can use either sweet or tart cherries, depending on the season, what you can find, frozen, canned. If you're using sweet like we are, it's a cup of sugar.
Okay.
If you're using the sour cherries, it's a cup and a half of sugar. And then I've got flour, that's the thickener. So you just dump it all in the pan.
All in here?
And you
Oh,
wanna
man.
let it simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes till it gets nice and thick. Now I'm gonna show you a revolutionary pie crust, okay?
Okay.
Now in
Okay.
creative
Can't
baking,
wait.
we did it the old way with shortening. I am doing an oil crust.
What?
So,
Yes, I love an oil crust.
yeah, my grandma used to do this, and they're so easy, okay? So here we go. I've got my flour.
Face, Cheesy. This is what happens in the South.
Are we making pizza, Katie?
We did
Flour
know.
and
It's gonna be
salt.
so delicious.
Mix the flour and salt, and then you're gonna add in vegetable oil. You're looking for a neutral oil that's not gonna impart flavor here. And then you're gonna add just a couple tablespoons of cold water. And you're looking for this to just come together.
I am so intrigued by this.
Very intrigued.
We're not looking for like a really wet dough. You want it to be just coming together, and take care not to over-mix your dough. Now, I've got 2 pieces of parchment paper
That's
here.
right, Katie.
Or wax
You don't
paper.
rest it, Katie?
No,
Wow.
that's it.
Let me
It's
tell you
so
something about
simple.
old school recipes. They break all of the rules, but they still work out. My grandma would put eggs into hot batter in a blender and blitz it up and make a pie, and it's not eggy. The egg didn't break or anything like that. It's just something about these old school recipes.
So I have all of the dough here. I'm gonna divide this in half, but make one half slightly bigger than the other, because the bottom
top.
half needs to be bigger.
So the overlap.
I'm gonna set that one aside. We're gonna do this little step twice and kind of make it into a round disc, and then put our parchment paper on top. And then the way that I like to roll it out, I just start going and then keep turning it in a
The old
circle.
Turn and burn. Love
Yeah.
that.
So you just keep rolling in that circle, just like that, until you get it big enough for your pie plate. Now I've got one here already done. Jeff, if you'll take some of this lightly beaten egg and just give it a good brush,
On the
that's
bottom.
gonna help seal the crust so that you don't get that soggy crust. You know how sometimes
That's a
you
nice trick.
slice into a pie and it's got a soggy bottom?
I still blind bake. I love that.
This'll help. All right, so I'm
Great
gonna
idea.
just
We'll
keep
oversell
rolling
this
this.
with
See how quickly that happened? And if you're not gonna make your pie for a little bit, you can just put this in the
It's
fridge.
a great tip, though, for whenever you're
Yeah,
making a pie, rather than
sandwiching.
trying to get it stuck to the, the dowel or the rolling pin.
Yeah.
This is
Less
like so
bench
much easier.
flour used.
Yeah.
All right, so we got this all nice and thickened up, and you can use this same recipe for any kind of fruit pie that you want. We need a little bit more
Oh,
filling.
yeah, you go. And that's cooled, right? The stuff you put it, you want it
Yeah, cool
cooled.
it a little bit.
cool it a little bit.
What I
but
like
it's,
about this pie method is you don't have to rest it. Bring it out, and you don't have to bench flour,
Right.
like you said. You don't change the recipe. Put too much flour, it changes the structure of the
a
dough.
lot faster. And then I like to put just a couple cubes of butter over it to give it
There's
some
the
flavor.
butter.
So here's my other crust.
Wow.
I'm gonna take it
Shiny and beautiful.
and just go
Ooh, that would be
right
a
on
good
top.
empanada dough.
Yeah, you're right. You could use this for savory, for sure. And then we're just gonna peel it off very carefully. Now, this dough is a little crumbly, so you wanna take your time when you do the peel. And I am not gonna lie, I buy pie crust all the time.
All the time.
There's plenty of really good ones that you can buy. So
What about you, Cheesy?
no shame in that game.
Do you buy pie crust, Cheesy?
I don't, but I buy a lot of frozen puff pastry.
Okay, yeah,
Which I
same.
use
I'm not
all-
making tough paste.
Okay, so here's our pie crust. It looks really nice. And I'm just gonna take the egg wash, and this is gonna give us a nice, beautiful golden
bumps
brown
from the
crust.
cherries. You could see that on there.
I
That's
love
exciting.
being schooled.
And you know, you could use the same recipe with the sugar and the flour for a blueberry pie. You could do it for a peach pie, strawberry rhubarb.
A raspberry pie?
Absolutely. All right, so now I'm gonna cut a vent into the top of the pie. And I always do the egg wash first, because if you cut the vent first and then the egg wash, you're gonna seal your vent.
Your drippage.
All right, so you can take your knife around and trim the sides.
Are you implementing skills you learned in school in the creative baking
Yes,
class as we
yes.
speak? Okay.
You know, it's funny to think back the classes that you actually use. That was an elective, and it became what I actually use. And crimp the edges, kind of give them a little curb appeal, or you can take a fork.
That's it. Do the time
Just
method.
go around like that. So it's your choice. The one I baked earlier, I did the crimping method. This one, I'm gonna do the fork method. So we'll have 2 different ones. Everybody at home, we get messages, what do you all do with the food?
Eat
that you don't
it.
eat? There's a lot of people behind this camera that's gonna be having cherry pie for lunch today. This
It's a
goes
proper lunch.
into the oven, 425 degrees for 45 to 55 minutes.
Right.
If at any point you see that the crust starts to look too done, take it out and put a little foil around the edge. And I've got one right here.
Ooh, girl.
That is beautiful
Oh,
and done.
that looks
Jeff, why don't you get some vanilla ice
fantastic.
cream out of the freezer?
Oh, pick it up.
Katie, that
There we
looks
go.
just divine.
That's right.
It's so pretty, it looks store-bought.
Talk about the crust, Jeezy.
I mean, I've been to school today. I've never seen this.
No.
And I'm so excited to use it because it's so easy.
Super
So
simple.
easy. And you could use that crust for a chicken pot pie.
Yeah, that's what,
Right?
Yeah.
it looks flaky already.
It's a very flaky crust. And let it cool a little bit before you cut it so that it's easier to slice so it gets nice and set up.
Flakiness on 10. Welcome to Flake Town.
Oh, look at
Look at that. Look at that, Katie.
Look at that. All right.
it's solid.
Jeff, you helped.
Yeah,
so
it did. I'm gonna.
Yeah, you were really a good help there.
He was.
Hey, I put the stuff in the thing. All right, let's try that.
What?
That's beautiful structure.
I
right?
mean,
Just structure.
it's holding up, man.
Just from a visual standpoint, right?
Yeah.
Holding up, it's not spilling out.
No, Jeezy,
You know the
I would
filling's on
like for
point.
you to try that crust first, Jeezy. Yeah, forget me. I believe in it.
First of all, right? We've spent 6 minutes talking about the crust. The crust is a must, dare I say. It is so
Okay.
good. It's so much easier than the butter crust. And that filling, perfectly tart, balanced with the amount of sugar we in there. Just make sure you taste those cherries before because it's perfect. It's right in the perfect sweetness to tart ratio zone.
A boozy pecan pie. How good does that sound? So I'm starting with the sticky pecan pie filling, and it's a cup of sugar, 3 tablespoons of packed brown sugar, a healthy pinch of salt, and then I'm gonna take the cup measure and add dark brown corn syrup. You know, I typically use white corn syrup or light corn syrup, it's called, just because I tend to usually have that in my pantry. But there's something about this kind of boozy version of my regular pecan pie. That's about as full as that cup can possibly get. Ready? This is what you call a viscous substance. It's so silky and yummy. Okay, so then I'm gonna add 3 eggs that I already cracked just to make it easy. And a little splash of vanilla, about a teaspoon or so. Normally I would stop mixing here for my regular pecan pie, but I'm gonna take the liberty of adding about a 1/4 cup of bourbon. Any more than that, and it would probably affect how the pie bakes. Any less than that, and you would be disappointed. Because if someone tells me I'm going to take a bite of a boozy pecan pie, I most certainly want to taste that booze. So what's cool is I made a homemade crust and I put a little splash of bourbon in the crust itself. I substituted 1 of the tablespoons of cold water in the recipe for my pie crust. So there's gonna be booze everywhere you turn with this pie. And then melted butter, and that really, really sends this filling over the top. So I added the pecans to the crust. You can see this, Alex. And this is how I like to make pecan pie. I like to chop the pecans. There are some people who believe, I'm not gonna name names, that pecan pie should have a topping of pecan halves. Oh, I think that's an enormous mistake. I think you need to have them chopped up because then you wind up with little crispy, wonderful bits of pecan instead of big halves that tear through the filling. I have a whole philosophy and religion about chopping pecans for pecan pie. I'll write a book about it. So I'm gonna lightly cover the pie with foil. just to protect the surface so it doesn't get burned while the filling sets. Okay, you ready to get this in the oven?
Yep.
Now, if you're using a smaller pan, you might want to put it on a sheet pan just to catch the drips. But I'm going to put this into a 350-degree oven. And then in about 50 minutes, I'll take the foil off and let it bake for another probably 20-30 minutes until it's set. But look what I found. I already made one in another pan, and it has totally baked and totally cooled. Okay, so beautiful crispy crust on top. So what really makes this pie extra sensational is that I'm gonna make a boozy whipped cream to go over the top. Emphasis on over the top. So I'm gonna sift just about a 1/4 cup of powdered sugar, and then I'll add a cup of cold cream, and you guessed it, healthy splash of bourbon. Pecan pie is wonderful because you can actually serve it cold, room temperature, or warm, and it's delicious any way you slice it. Okay, so then I just stir this around, and I'm actually gonna beat the whipped cream by hand, and that way it'll be kind of soft. It'll just sort of be billowy on the slice of pie.
That is so good.
Is it really? Mauricio, get in here and look at this. Look at this boozy pecan pie you're getting ready to eat. And then a little boozy whipped cream for you.
Uh-oh. Thank you. Cheers.
Boozy pecan. Oh. How is it?
Which one are you?
So good.
Chocolate marshmallow pumpkin pie. I'm gonna make some chocolate ganache. I've got some cream that's been simmering away, and I broke up some chocolate pieces. Okay, this is about halfway mixed together, so it's a good time to add just a little bit of vanilla. Okay, this ganache looks beautiful. It's nice and smooth. So I'm gonna pour this all over the top of this pumpkin pie. It just instantly transforms it. I love the combination of pumpkin and chocolate too. I don't do that very often. Okay, I got all the pumpkin covered. So I'm gonna put this into the freezer so the chocolate will set. It won't take long at all. While it sets in the freezer, I'm gonna whip up a creamy marshmallow topping for the pie. It starts with a 7-ounce container of marshmallow cream. It goes into the mixer with 1/4 cup of room temperature butter. I'll just beat them together until they're combined. Next, I'll add 2 cups of heavy cream to another mixer bowl and get it going with the whisk attachment. When it's frothy, I'll gradually add a cup of powdered sugar, whisk it until it forms stiff peaks. Then I'll get the marshmallow mixture into the cream and beat it until it's all incorporated, smooth, and creamy. Okay, the ganache is all set. I'm gonna put the pie right into a ceramic pie dish. I'm gonna get this glorious, creamy marshmallow topping right on the pie. Now, I thought about sprinkling nuts or chocolate candies over the top, but then I remembered these fall lollipops, all different colors, and I thought, how pretty will these be? So I am just gonna stick them all over the pie. No particular order. I love the colors, they're so gorgeous.
I am making my s'mores slab pie, which is buttery and flaky. It's perfect for a crowd. So to get started, I'm gonna make my crust. I'm gonna grab 2½ cups of all-purpose flour, and then I'm also gonna add 1¼ cups of whole wheat flour. I'm gonna add 6 tablespoons of sugar, and now I'll add my salt, and then 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon, and a few passes of nutmeg. And the nutmeg and the cinnamon combined with the whole wheat flour are what's gonna give this crust that graham crackery flavor. There we go. And now I'll whisk this to combine. Now that my dry ingredients are combined, I'll grab my butter and shortening. I like using a mix of butter and shortening in my crust. I wanna do everything that I can to keep my butter and shortening as cold as possible because that is gonna help the crust stay flaky. And I'm just gonna use my hands to smash the cubes of butter and shortening to incorporate them into my dry mixture. but I still want some larger chunks of butter and shortening. My pie dough mixture is looking ready, so now I'm gonna grab my liquids. 2/3 of a cup of cold water. It's important that it's cold, again, for the flakiness. And then I'm also adding 2 teaspoons of vinegar. Vinegar inhibits the formation of gluten in a pie crust and helps it stay flaky. I'll drizzle this in, and then I'll use a spatula to mix it all together. And it's starting to come together into a dough, so I'm gonna finish it off by just getting back in here with my hands. I'm gonna wrap it in plastic wrap now. I'll divide it in half. 1 piece for the bottom layer, 1 piece for the top layer. And I'm gonna form these blobs into rectangles because I'm making a slab pie. This is a dough that can be done a couple of days in advance. And now I'll refrigerate this for 4 hours so it can firm up. I want some more already. I'm gonna assemble my s'more slab pie now. I'll grab my rolling pin, and I have 1/2 of my dough that I'm gonna roll out for the bottom of the pie. And I'll dust my work surface with some flour so that the dough doesn't stick. And I'll also dust the top of the dough. And I wanna roll out my dough so that it's big enough to cover the pan and hang over the edges a little bit to get a nice thick crust. I'll transfer my dough to my pan. And to do that, I'm gonna roll it up. And now I'll slip my pan right underneath. I'm just helping it get molded into the corners of the pan. And now for the filling, couldn't be simpler, chocolate and marshmallows. I've got 4 chocolate bars, and I'll lay these right in, and I'll break up the 4th bar and distribute it all over, and this chocolate is all gonna melt right down. And then I'm gonna cover the chocolate with mini marshmallows. I'll spread my marshmallows all over the chocolate, and now I'll grab my other half of the pie crust to roll out for the top. So I'll roll this out just like I rolled out the bottom layer of crust. Okay, this top crust is looking ready, and I'm going to gently transfer it to the top of the pie. Woo! All right, now I'm gonna go around and pinch the edges to seal, and then I'm gonna grab my scissors to trim off any excess edges. And now my favorite part, I'm gonna use my fingers to make a crimping pattern on the edge. And I'll brush this all over with a thin layer of egg wash, and that'll help the top of the pie get shiny. And then the last thing I'll do before I'll bake this is I'm gonna poke a few holes in the top with a fork, just to release the steam. This is gonna bake at 400 degrees for 40 to 50 minutes until the top is golden, and I cannot wait to eat this. This is stunning, and it already smells like camp in here. Okay, I'm gonna let my pie cool while I make my chocolate glaze. I'll grab some milk and cocoa powder, and now I'm gonna add 3 cups of powdered sugar to my bowl. 3/4 of a cup of cocoa powder, some salt, and 6 tablespoons of whole milk. And now I'll mix it until it's smooth. And I'm looking for a thick, spreadable consistency. This is perfect. It's ready to go on my pie. Okay, I'm gonna use an offset spatula now to zhuzh it around. I like getting nice big swoops in the glaze. Oh, it's so glossy and gorgeous. Okay, sprinkles time. I have these cute sprinkles that have little tiny marshmallows in them. I'll sprinkle these all over. It's so great. It's like a big fancy s'more.
So I've got the apples, they look gorgeous from the farm, and now I'm just gonna make pie crust. I don't know why, but I think people find pie crust more daunting than anything else that we make. I'm gonna show you the secret of really good pie crust, and it's about very cold ingredients. So I'm gonna start with 3 cups of flour, just regular all-purpose flour. A tablespoon of sugar. And 1 teaspoon of salt. I use kosher salt. Now for the shortening. There are all kinds of debates about what kind of shortening to use for pie crust, but I actually combine vegetable shortening, and I do it very cold. It comes out of the refrigerator. And butter. And then you get all of the flakiness of the vegetable shortening and all the flavor of the butter. So that's 1/3 of a cup of vegetable shortening. And I have 1½ sticks of cold butter that I've diced, and I actually put it back in the refrigerator until I was ready. So it's really cold. Put that right in. And now comes the critical part. What you want in the dough is little bits of butter and shortening through the dough. You don't want it totally pureed. And that's what makes it flaky. When the heat from the oven hits the butter, it causes steam to evaporate, and that's what makes it really flaky. So when you're doing this, make sure it's not totally pureed in the flour. I'm just gonna pulse this about 8 times until it's like the size of peas. Maybe 10 times. So you can still see bits of butter and shortening in the flour, and that's what's going to make really flaky pastry. I'm going to do maybe one more pulse. Okay, so the next thing is ice water, and I need about 8 tablespoons, which is about a half a cup. So I'm going to pour out the ice. Excellent. So I'm going to turn this on and just let it go around until it forms a ball. Okay, we're there. So now I'm going to refrigerate it for about 30 minutes. It's a really important part of making good pie pastry. Okay, now for the filling. Deep dish apple pie. 4 pounds of apples cut up in big chunks, and I'm going to flavor it with a little bit of orange zest and lemon zest. 1 tablespoon of orange juice and 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. This not only flavors it, but it keeps the apples from turning brown. Half a cup of sugar. It all depends on how sweet the apples are. These are pretty tart. 1/4 cup of flour. And a teaspoon of salt. Okay, now for the spices. 3/4 of a teaspoon of good cinnamon. Half a teaspoon of good nutmeg. I love the way it smells. It smells like apple pie spices already. Okay, 1/8 of a teaspoon of allspice, which is really a pinch. And then I'm just going to mix it all up. And then right into the crust. This is a lot of apples for this pie crust, but I like it when it's piled high. Mile high apple pie. Okay, now for the top crust. Ready for the pie. Roll it up on the rolling pin. And roll it really gently over the apples. There's so many different ways to crimp a pie. I think everybody likes to do it the way their mother did it. But what I like to do is just roll the top crust underneath the bottom one. I want to make this really old-fashioned looking. Okay, once that's done, you can either crimp it with a fork. Crimping is about keeping the 2 crusts together so it seals in the juices. Or you can do it with your fingers. I think I'll do it with my fingers. Okay, crimped. Now, I'm going to do an egg wash. It's going to make the crust really nice and brown, which is 1 egg beaten with about a tablespoon of water or milk or whatever you have. Just brush the whole top. Okay, a little bit of sugar, make it nice and shiny. And then just a few holes in the top to let the steam escape so the crust gets nice and crisp. Sort of old-fashioned. Okay, into the oven, 400 degrees for about an hour and 15 minutes. Now that's an apple pie.
I'm making one of our favorite recipes, pumpkin pie, which is rich and custardy and has incredible depth of flavor because I make a cooked filling and then I put it into a pie crust and bake and decorate with fresh whipped cream. So to start, I'll take my 1 can of pumpkin and I'm gonna add it to a saucepan. I'm gonna add 1/3 cup each of granulated sugar and brown sugar and 1/4 cup of maple syrup for my 3rd type of sugar. And that's just gonna mean more dimension of flavor. I'll season with a teaspoon of salt. And now I'm gonna cook this, stirring until it's glossy and thickened, and that's gonna allow the sugars to melt and caramelize. This is smelling really good. I'm gonna grab my heavy cream and milk. I'll add 3/4 cup of each of these. And one thing that I find so uniquely delicious about this pie is that you can actually taste the milky richness of it. And I'm using the combo so that it's really rich, but not overly rich. I'm gonna switch to a whisk now so I can whisk it all in. And now I'm just gonna heat this until the milk gets steamy. I don't wanna bring it to a boil and scald the milk. This is looking so creamy already. As this heats up, I'm gonna crack in my eggs. I've got 3 whole eggs and 2 egg yolks for added richness. So now anytime you want to incorporate eggs into a hot mixture like this, you've got to temper them, and that means warming them up gradually. Because if I were to just crack them in, they would scramble and the texture would not be smooth. I'm gonna grab a ladle. This always takes some coordination, but I'm gonna add a little bit of the hot mixture as I'm whisking the eggs. And this is essentially gonna gradually cook them while maintaining their smooth texture. My egg mixture is warm to the touch, and that's how I know it's ready to be added back into the pot. So with one hand, I'll drizzle it in, and with the other hand, I'm gonna continue to whisk. Perfect. I'm gonna continue to cook this while it thickens, and in the meantime, I'll grab my spices. I've got cinnamon and nutmeg, and pulling out the fancy vanilla beans. Oh, they smell so good. So I'm gonna slice it in half and just scrape out the pods. And I'm gonna use the blunt end of my knife to scrape them out. And this is gonna add fancy vanilla flavor and really pretty speckles. Okay, I'll scrape this into the filling. A little really goes a long way. And then I don't like to add too many spices, just enough to enhance the pumpkin flavor. So half a teaspoon of cinnamon and a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg. I'll whisk this in. I love being able to see the speckles of the spices and the vanilla bean. My filling is done. I'll grab my crust, which is blind baking in the oven. This is just my go-to pie crust. Flour, sugar, and salt, blended with cold butter, and then formed into a dough with a little apple cider vinegar and ice water. I rolled it out and crimped the edges. This is beautiful. I'm gonna taste the filling before I add it in, just in case I wanna make any adjustments. Yum. There are so many things going on in that filling, and they all just mesh together in the most beautiful way. I'm gonna pour this into the crust, and I'm gonna bake this at 375 degrees for 30 to 40 minutes until the outside is set, but the center is still a little jiggly. That's how you prevent it from cracking. Oh yes, this is perfectly done. It's set around the outside, but it's still a little soft on the inside. I'm gonna let this cool completely, decorate with fresh whipped cream and cinnamon, and then it is gonna be the sweet star of the show.
It's a crowd pleaser, my ultimate no-bake chocolate peanut butter pie. Starting with the filling, but this is another little cheat, and I'm not ashamed to admit it.
Yeah.
We already got the pie crust.
Oh, yeah, buy
So we didn't have to ground up anything or bake off anything or blind bake anything. Store-bought graham cracker pie crust.
Okay.
Would be any easier. Let's start with the filling, okay? Here I already whipped up some cream, just heavy whipping cream, nice cold bowl to stiff peaks with some confectioner sugar and a little bit of vanilla. We'll get to that in a second. In here, some room temp cream cheese.
Yes.
Room temp. You can't rush that. Some creamy peanut butter. I tried this with the chunky. It doesn't work. You need the creamy stuff, okay? This gives you a plenty of sugar and sweetened too. Plus we kind of alter. There's about 3/4 cup of confectioner sugar in the whipped cream too. So this will be sweet enough. And a little more vanilla, and we're gonna beat this on medium for about 2 to 3 minutes. We wanna incorporate a lot of air into this. So it's a nice airy. We're going to sing a song. So we're gonna whip this beautifully, right? It's gonna go. Let's talk about our peanut butter sauce, which we got right here. Very easy to do, stuff you have in your pantry. Obviously peanut butter, sweetened condensed milk, a little vanilla, and a little water. Just judging on how thick the peanut butter is, you might need to thin it out. All right, this is looking good. Now we wanna incorporate the whipped cream into that carefully. Let's move this. Got that going. And then I got this here. I don't think anybody wants this. So I'm gonna put
Are you done with it? I'll take
you
it.
Sure?
You can scrape it back.
Yeah, I was gonna put it in the.
No, man.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Pass it down.
Pass it.
If Geoffrey puts the whole paddle in his mouth, I swear.
I'll donate $1,000 to your
Just the
favorite
whole world.
charity.
It would be the sign of the apocalypse, right? You could see it. It got light in color, nice and airy. Now we want to take our whipped cream, which we kept in that cold bowl.
That's good because we need sugar.
Yeah, it does. It needs sugar.
So what you do is you use, a lot of people don't know that this little kind of tip of a rubber spatula actually serves as a function. When you are folding, especially stuff you just whipped, you take that tip and you kind of turn it in, turn the bowl, and flip it over, right? You don't want to sit there and grind it in. So you just take it. It's there for a reason. You want to carefully, without losing all those pockets of air we spent all that time whipping into it. Look how pretty that is. And right when it's almost incorporated,
do it.
mini peanut butter.
You're crazy.
So what we did is just use the minis. You can get the full-size ones.
You get more peanut butter in it.
I mean, to me, there's nothing better.
And you go the day after the holiday and they're 50% off.
That's right,
So
save us
the
some
day
money.
after the holiday, they're just as fresh as the day before. So we got those peanut butter cups in there, our no-bake, pre-made graham cracker pie crust. So we are gonna, look at that, beautiful. You see all, I mean, this with a spoon in the couch, binging on some shows, like The Kitchen.
Do it.
Right, goes all in there. I mean, just the smell alone. Put that to the side. Right, we're gonna kind of spread it out without getting any on the rim of the crust. Just be careful with this. Now this is gonna go set up in the fridge a little bit, just to kind of harden up. So I got one ready to go. And we are not done. There are more elements. So look at that. That's what it looks like.
Bring it.
We are not done. Next is that peanut butter sauce we talked about earlier. Move it around a little bit. Let it cool. You don't want to put this too hot on there. You just want it, you know,
Oh, come
streamable, as I
on,
say,
Jeff.
right? And we are going to get pollock with this.
My mouth just watered.
That's
It's happening.
all right. Get it. Go get
Don't
a
be
nice spoonful
stingy.
and
Don't be
starts to
stingy.
stream and then transfer. Look at that. And I want to do it all one way. All one way. I'm not crisscrossing here because,
Not
you
going
know.
crisscross?
Right? Now, magic chocolate sauce.
Do it. Do it.
Okay, try some.
He's so shy.
All right, so you want to do a little, you can always put this in a bowl, but some of these have different nozzles on them. Same thing, right? Drizzle. And this is gonna, there we go. Beautiful, and that's gonna harden once it hits that chilled pie filling there. And we're not done. Roasted, salted peanuts.
Jeez.
Mini chocolate chips. And these are gonna kind of provide a nice little border around, just on the edge there.
Oh, Jeff, yeah, make it cute.
I just wanted to make it cute and pretty,
Yeah.
because that's what I am. Things never
I
said to
think
Jeff,
Jeff-
you're pretty cute and pretty.
Cute and pretty.
I just get, you look a lot younger and thinner in person.
That's right. We all look
we all
fatter
do.
on TV.
And there it is, perfect for a weekend dessert, a treat. Congratulate ourselves on such a job well done.
It looks good, Jeff.
All right, hot water knife. Oh boy, oh boy. Listen to that.
I mean, I love a no-bake pie. I really do. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to heat up the kitchen.
You can even, like, feasibly put this in the freezer, right?
Yeah.
Bring it wherever you're going. It's perfect. All right, I'm giving it to you, Geoffrey, because I know how much you love that pie, that sweet, sweet peanut butter pie.
Oh, look at that.
Wow.
It looks rich.
Jeff, you never made me a piece of pie.
Do it justice, GZ. Yeah? I'm going in. Can I just pick it up like a pizza or what?
Yeah? It just tastes nothing like you would think it would taste. It is so light. And you know what the key to this is? You get the peanut, but also there's this salty quality. And I mean, it's a perfect consistency. It's just the right temperature. Then you reach one of those peanut butter cups and you get that splash of peanut butter chocolate.
Whether it's a small dinner or a big holiday gathering, you really can't go wrong with apple pie. Now this one has a crumb topping and it's drizzled with caramel sauce at the end, so it pretty much takes apple pie to a new level. Now I'm making the crust for the pie. I started with 3 cups of all-purpose flour. I used a 1.5 cup measure. They're so handy. And I'll add a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, half a teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and then a teaspoon of salt. This is the pie crust recipe that my friend Sylvia shared with me years and years ago. I added the spices just to give the apple pie a little bit of an edge. I got all that stirred around. Now I'll add 3/4 cup of cold shortening. I just cut it into squares. And then the same amount of cold butter. Now I'll just use a pastry cutter to slowly combine the dry ingredients with the shortening and butter. I got most of the big chunks of shortening and butter broken up. So now I'll add a beaten egg. I didn't overbeat it, I just barely stirred it around with a fork. Now I have a little container of ice water, and I'll just add about 5 tablespoons right over the top. Whenever you're making pie crust, it's important for the ingredients to stay really, really cold. Otherwise, everything falls apart. Now finally, a tablespoon of vinegar. The acid in the vinegar just helps the pie crust stay extra tender. Now just stir it around with a spoon until it just comes together. Now I'll just break the dough in half, and then I'll put each helping into its own plastic bag. I'll just form it into a rough ball. And then after I stick it in the bag, I just flatten it slightly, and that'll make it easier to roll out later. Okay, I'll get the second one in. This pie crust is so good without the spices, but it's particularly delicious with. All right, now I'm gonna stick the pie crust into the freezer. This crust is for a future pie, and this one just needs to chill for about 20 minutes. So when the time's up, all I have to do is get the dough out of the bag and onto a floured surface and start rolling. I just keep going until it's slightly larger than the pie pan. Then I roll it around the rolling pin, lift it onto the pie pan, carefully unroll it, and press it in. Then I tear off the excess dough and tuck the edge under neatly and go around pinching the dough to crimp it. I've just been slicing a bunch of peeled apples. I've got about 6 to 7 cups of apple slices in the bowl. And now I'll add a 1/2 cup of sugar. And then to make it a little bit thicker, I'll add a 1/4 cup of flour. To combat all that sweetness, it needs a little salt, about 1/4 teaspoon. And then I'll slice a lemon in half, and I'll just squeeze in the juice of 1/2 of it. That is all combined. Now I'll just bring up the beautiful crust, and I'll just pile the apples right in the crust. And when I say pile, I mean pile. I don't believe in having a level apple pie. Okay, just perfect. Now, there are many delicious things about this apple pie, and this crumb topping is one of them. It's butter and flour cut together with some brown sugar, quick oats, which give fabulous texture, and a little salt, all stirred together. Okay, now the crumb topping just gets sprinkled all over the pie. Use my hands. If some of it falls onto the floor, no problem. There's plenty more where that came from. Big pile. Now I'll just use my hands to let it fall into the cracks. Oh my gosh, look at that. Gorgeous. Now the pie goes into a 375-degree oven for about an hour. Then there's another thing to add to the topping before it finishes baking. 1/2 cup of chopped pecans. Delicious. Okay, back in for 5 more minutes. Well, my house smells heavenly, and that means the pie is ready to come out of the oven. It just looks amazing. Oh, nice and golden, those crunchy nuts on top. The crust looks gorgeous. Now to finish it off and to make it caramel apple pie, I'll just crack open a jar of caramel sauce, and I'll just drizzle it. Todd loves sweets, and this is one seriously sweet pie. He also loves chocolate, peanut butter, so this pie covers all the bases. I also love this pie for all of the aforementioned reasons, but I also love it because it begins with a chocolate cookie crust. I'm gonna melt 4 tablespoons of butter in the saucepan and then grind up the cookies. I have exactly 25 chocolate sandwich cookies. Now I'm just gonna pulse these up. Don't worry about the creamy filling because it just totally disappears and becomes part of the crumbs. Now the butter is melted. I'll just drizzle it in. Butter and chocolate cookies. Life doesn't get any better than that. And then I'll just give it a couple of pulses just to moisten up the crumbs. And that is it. Very, very uncomplicated. That's one of the things I love about this pie. Now I will make a big mess as I pour the crumbs into the pie pan. And then the easiest way to get it in is just use your hands, start pressing the center. You want the crust to be pretty packed in there so then later when you slice the pie, the crust will stay together. Another thing I love about this crust is that it's a refrigerator pie and it doesn't have to bake. I'm just gonna stick the crust in a 350-degree oven for about 5 or 7 minutes just to get it set. The filling begins with a cup of creamy peanut butter. I'm just gonna eyeball it. I don't wanna go through the effort of measuring it into the cup and then scraping it out of the cup. So if I get a little more or less, it won't hurt anything. All right, and then I've got an 8-ounce package of softened cream cheese. I'll throw it in there, and then I'll just whip this up for a sec. What a yummy, yummy mixture. Now to this mixture, I'll add 1.25 cups of powdered sugar. And the final ingredient, avert your eyes, frozen non-dairy whipped topping. I've been thawing it so it's nice and soft. Of course, you can use regular whipped cream, but it just won't come out with the same consistency as this stuff. Okay, absolutely perfect. All right, now I'm just gonna put this into the cooled crust. I tell you, if you love peanut butter, this is your dessert. The whole kitchen smells like peanut butter right now. And then I'll just spread it around. Look at that, isn't that gorgeous? And that is all there is to it. Now it just needs to sit in the fridge for a couple of hours until it's set.
Wow, that's mine.
That looks good, honey.
I'm gonna make chocolate banana cream pie. It's a classic comfort food. It's got a graham cracker crust, chocolate pudding, bananas, and whipped cream on top. I mean, duh, who wouldn't love that? So it starts with a really rich chocolate pudding. So I need 3/4 cup of sugar, 5 extra large egg yolks. This is one time they don't have to be room temperature. 1/3 cup of cornstarch. We want a really rich, thick chocolate pudding. And a teaspoon of salt. I know it sounds odd to put salt in something sweet, but it really brings out the chocolate flavor. Okay, I'm just gonna mix these together at low speed, just until they're combined. The next thing I need is 4 cups of scalded milk, which means it's just below the simmering point. You'll see little bubbles right around the edge, and that's when it's perfect. And since it's really hard to pour milk from a pot into a mixer, and it's hot milk, I'm gonna pour it into a measuring cup that has a spout. It's much easier. So I'm just gonna take this and pour it very slowly into the eggs. What I don't wanna do is scramble the eggs. So you want them to warm up really slowly. It's really like making a custard. A really rich, deep chocolate custard. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this and pour it back into the pan and cook it for a few minutes just until it's really thick. And then I'm gonna add lots of chocolate. So pour it back into the pan, same pan, you don't have to clean the pan out. Okay, I'm just gonna cook this at a medium-low heat for about 5 minutes, just until it's really thick. I'll see you on the other side. This looks like it's perfect. You can see it's sort of the consistency of warm pudding. Now I'm gonna turn off the heat, and I'm gonna add lots of chocolate, 7 ounces of bittersweet chocolate. Just pour it in, it's just gonna melt right into it. Next is 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I've just diced it up so it melts in. Just gives it a little extra richness. And now, because I love coffee and chocolate together, I'm gonna add 2 things that have coffee flavor. The first one is a tablespoon of coffee liqueur. Just gives it real depth of flavor. And we want lots of flavor. And the second one is instant coffee or espresso, whichever one you like. Whatever you have in the pantry, it doesn't really matter. smells so good. All the chocolate and the coffee together. It's just fantastic. Next thing is to pour it into the crust. And this is my foolproof graham cracker crust. Let me tell you how I made it. I put 10 to 12 graham crackers in the food processor and ground them up. Transferred the crumbs to a bowl, added 1/4 cup of sugar and 3/4 stick of melted butter. Stirred the mixture together, poured it into an 11-inch false bottom fluted pie tin. Pressed it gently with a measuring cup into the corners and across the base, making sure the sides and bottom are an even thickness. Then bake the crust at 350 degrees for 10 minutes, then set it aside to cool completely. It's really important to let the crust cool completely so the warm pudding doesn't soak into the crust. So here comes the moment. I'm just gonna pour it in, and hopefully it's just the right amount. Oh, how good does this look? And how good does it smell? And you want it right up to the top. Just smooth it out. So I'm just gonna add bananas and whipped cream to this. Now this is my kind of fruit dessert. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put a little plastic wrap on. I wanna chill this, but I don't want it to form a skin. So I'm gonna take a piece of plastic wrap and just put it directly on the pudding. And that'll keep it nice and creamy. So just smooth this out, and I'm gonna chill it for 6 hours. And then I'm gonna put bananas and whipped cream on top. But I happen to have one already chilled in the fridge. This is the chilled pie, and I made some whipped cream. Look how dark and delicious and chocolatey this looks. Wow. I love it. And I've made whipped cream. It's 3 ingredients, really easy. I poured a cup of cold, heavy cream into an electric mixer. It has to be cold because you can't whip warm cream. Then added 1 tablespoon of sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla, turned the mixer to medium-high, and whisked it until it just made firm peaks. I've sliced some bananas, 2 or 3 depending on how big they are, and I'm gonna put them in concentric circles right on top of the tart. Now that looks pretty good already, but I'm gonna make it even better. So I'm gonna put a layer of whipped cream on top. This is a really earthy dessert. It's very comfort food. This isn't the time to pipe whipped cream. This is the time to just slather it on. And what I want to do is just push it right to the edge, but I still want you to see the bananas and the chocolate. I think it looks so much better that way. I think we need a little more whipped cream though. Just kind of pile it up. Now, is this the ultimate comfort food or what? Maybe a little extra decoration like shaved chocolate on the top. I've used bittersweet chocolate in the tart, but if I use milk chocolate, if you have a little bit, it's actually easier to shave and make curls. Otherwise, it tends to just end up kind of ground on top. Look how good that looks. Okay, let's see if I'm gonna put it on a cake stand. So, I've got a nice cake stand, and let's see if I can get it out of the tart shell. So this is a false bottom tart shell. So what you do is just take it off and slide it right onto the cake stand. Wow, I don't know that this is everybody's idea of a make-ahead fruit dessert, but you can make a lot of it ahead, and it's got fruit in it, right? Works for me.